Zorak, Guardian of Earth, Part 4, Episodes 16 to 20. Episode 16, Arrival of the Execution Fleet. Executor. Prime Dravos Kale enters the war. He sends an execution fleet and they emerge at Jupiter's orbit. Beyond Jupiter, the gas giant's swirling storms, space bent inward with precision. They opened at Jupiter's Lagrange shadow corridor, specifically along the L2 gravitational null behind Jupiter relative to Earth. Rifts opened in geometric silence, one at first, then 12, then an armada. The execution squadron emerged like a verdict already passed. Colossal dreadnoughts slid from subspace in perfect formation, hulls angular and cathedral-like, their surfaces etched with luminous cobalt circuitry. Behind them followed siege carriers, vast skeletal constructs bearing ring-shaped weapons the size of a continent's. Graviton arrays rotated slowly, calibrating. Stellar bombardment cannons unfolded like mechanical flowers facing the sun. The fleet aligned. Across the fleet, synchronized pulses rippled outward as targeting solutions locked onto Earth. If all siege engines fired simultaneously, the impact would unravel the planet and Earth's magnetosphere. The invisible shield protecting life from solar annihilation would destabilize permanently. Solar radiation would strip oceans. Atmosphere would erode. Civilization would end not in fire, but in exposure. On the command deck of the flagship Judicator Ascendant, Executor Prime Dravos Kale watched the holographic projection of Earth rotate slowly before him. His armor was not ceremonial. It was engineered intimidation, jagged obsidian plates threaded with cobalt energy veins. A radiant core pulsed at his chest. His bald scalp bore thin, luminous fissures, as though energy lived beneath his skin. His eyes glowed with cold intelligence. He calculated. "Siege alignment?" he asked. 87% synchronized, Executor Prime. Acceptable. Far below, Earth's orbital defense satellites detected the anomaly. Zorak did not wait for confirmation. He felt it. Deep space pressure, artificial gravity distortion, weapon charge signatures large enough to scar a star. For the first time since Aetheron fell, he launched beyond Earth's atmosphere. He did not hesitate at the edge of orbit. He did not look back. His Astryxium ignited, darker now than before, threaded with balanced starlight, and he accelerated toward Jupiter's shadow. The void greeted him with silence. Stellar bombardment cannons fired in sequence at Zorak. Then the first barrage began. Stellar bombardment cannons fired in sequence. Beams of condensed solar plasma tore across millions of kilometers. Zorak twisted between them, each near miss erupting into miniature novas behind him. He closed distance and struck the first siege engine head-on. The structure dwarfed him, a rotating ring of gravitational amplifiers powered by a central core. Zorak tore through the outer lattice, ripping energy conduits apart with raw force. The engine attempted recalibration but was too slow. He drove both fists into its core. It detonated in a contained gravitational implosion, folding inward before scattering as molten debris. Across the fleet, adjustments recalculated. Graviton interceptors deployed. Sleek blade-shaped fighters warped forward, each generating localized gravity wells to pin him in place. Space around Zorak distorted. His limbs felt heavier, then crushingly dense. He roared, Astryxium flaring. The new white-threaded energy harmonized against the gravitational pressure. He inverted his vector mid-compression, slingshotting between two interceptors and colliding them together. The shockwaves shattered their containment fields. Boarding constructs followed. They were not ships, but autonomous assault monoliths. Black spires bristling with adaptive weapon limbs. They attempted entanglement, magnetic tethers firing toward his armor. Zorak was dragged toward the second siege engine. Inside the Judicator Ascendant, Dravos Kyle observed calmly, "Energy fluctuation within projected tolerance," an officer reported. "Record variance," Dravos replied. Zorak tore the boarding constructs apart in a flare of kinetic force. He hurled the wreckage directly into the second siege engine's focusing lens. The collision destabilized its firing chamber. He seized the opportunity. With a spear of magnetospheric energy formed from Jupiter's own radiation belts, he drove the construct through the engine's axis. Second destruction, but the fleet did not panic. They shifted and tightened their formation. They altered their firing patterns. A third siege engine activated, larger than the first two combined. Zorak accelerated through interceptor crossfire, taking multiple glancing strikes that cracked sections of his armor. He felt the impact, real damage in deep space where nothing buffered force. He crashed onto the engine's surface and began tearing into its structure. That was when Dravos Kyle spoke. The executor's voice did not travel by sound. It entered Zorak's consciousness directly, crisp, controlled. "We do not hate you, Aetheronian." Zorak paused only for a fraction of a second, enough to hear the rest. "You are an equation imbalance." Around him, the siege engine's core began overloading. "You distort the survival probability curve of this sector. Your existence introduces chaos variables." Zorak ripped open the core chamber. "Then solve for me," he growled. He drove his fist into the core. Third siege engine destroyed. The detonation illuminated Jupiter's cloud bands like a second sunrise. For a moment, silence returned to space. Zorak hovered amid debris, armor scorched, breathing heavily. Across the void, the execution fleet shifted again, not retreating in panic but in discipline. Ships withdrew in layered formation, graviton interceptors forming protective screens. The remaining siege engines powered down simultaneously. No chaotic scattering, no pursuit, measured withdrawal. Zorak surged forward to intercept, but they were already slipping into synchronized warp corridors. Before the fleet vanished entirely, Dravos Kale's presence brushed his mind once more. Data acquisition complete. Then they were gone. Only wreckage and radiation remained. Zorak floated alone between Earth and Jupiter. He realized the truth instantly. This had not been an invasion. It had been calibration. They had tested his acceleration thresholds, his endurance under sustained bombardment, his response patterns under multi-vector assault, his deep space limits. They had measured him. And next time, they would not be measuring. They would be executing. Zorak turned back toward Earth. For the first time since Aetheron's fall, he understood something with chilling clarity. This war would not be won in orbit. It would be won in the stars. Episode 17, the G4 Protocol. Together we have in the G4, Zorak the Ultimate Guardian from Aetheron, Mira the Energy Specialist, Dr. Ray the Tactical Scientist, and Lumo the Silent Telepath. Earth had survived tectonic collapse. It had survived psychic invasion. It had survived orbital siege. But survival was no longer victory. It was a mere countdown. Zorak must be ready, so he summons his friends as reinforcement. Location: G4. Hidden facility, Icelandic basalt vault. Deep beneath hardened volcanic rock shielded from satellite scans and gravitational mapping, a chamber pulsed with layered energy grids. Mira Hill stood before a rotating holographic projection of Earth's magnetosphere. Her dark eyes flickered with reflected auroral currents. "His energy variance has increased 14% since the Jupiter engagement," she observed Zorak and said quietly. Dr. Elwyn Ray adjusted his glasses, scanning cascading telemetry streams. "And it's not just variance," he added. "It's adaptive mutation. The Astryxium inside him is evolving." Across the room, Lumo stood perfectly still. The mute boy Lumo's silver pupils shimmered faintly. He wasn't looking at the projection. He was looking through it, and what he saw made his fingers tighten. Orbit, above Earth. Zorak descended through the upper atmosphere, armor scorched but stable. His Astryxium core pulsed in balanced white gold, different than before, now sharper. He landed outside the concealed G4 vault without triggering its defense grid. Mira stepped forward as the doors parted. "You felt them too," she said. Zorak nodded. "They weren't trying to win," he replied. "They were mapping the kill shot." The vision. Lumo stepped closer and touched Zorak's gauntlet the moment he touched Zorak's gauntlet. The world fractured, space darkened, stars extinguished, and a vast geometric construct unfolded across the solar system. 7 black spires positioned at gravitational nodes: Mercury, Venus, Earth's moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, all firing inward, converging, not on Earth but on the sun. The star imploded, causing solar collapse cascade, threatening system extinction. Zorak staggered back as the vision released. Lumo collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Mira's voice was barely a whisper. "That's not an invasion." Dr. Ray finished the thought. "That's stellar execution." He revealed. The revelation. Zorak straightened slowly. "The Synod's star is dying," he said. "If Earth's core isn't enough, they escalate." Dr. Ray's eyes widened. "You're saying they intend to replace their sun with ours?" "Or harvest it," Mira said grimly. Lumo raised trembling fingers. 3 words formed in glowing telepathic script in the air. "Attack Phase 3 begins. Alert." Every monitor in the chamber flashed crimson. Deep space anomaly. Outer Kuiper belt. 7 synchronized gravitational spikes. Zorak felt it before the data confirmed it. "They've begun constructing the stellar lattice," he said. Mira turned sharply. "How long?" "Days," Zorak answered. "Maybe hours." "First strike." The words pulsed across the chamber screens just as every monitor flashed crimson. An alert cascaded through the subterranean vault. Urgent, synchronized, undeniable. Deep space anomaly. Outer Kuiper belt. 7 synchronized gravitational spikes. The data streamed in chaotic fragments, but Zorak felt the shift before the systems confirmed it. A pressure in the fabric of space, a deliberate pattern. "They've begun constructing the stellar lattice," he said, his voice low and steady. Mira turned sharply toward him, the holographic glow of Earth's magnetosphere reflecting in her eyes. "How long?" "Days," Zorak answered grimly. Then, after a fraction of a pause, "Maybe hours." First strike. Without warning, the ground beneath the Icelandic vault trembled. Not seismic, no tectonic rhythm, no natural fault line. This was different, gravitational. The air itself seemed to compress as the ceiling rippled like disturbed water. Energy grids flickered along the walls. Above the facility, space distorted. A sphere of bending light materialized, warping the sky into a tightening vortex. And from its center descended something new, top of form, bottom of form. A towering biomechanical titan descended from the distortion sphere, its massive frame plated in obsidian alloy that absorbed the light around it. Veins of cobalt energy pulsed beneath its armored surface like circulating plasma. On its chest, an unmistakable insignia burned with cold authority, the mark of the Obsidian Synod. Dr. Ray stared upward, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's not a drone!" Zorak's reply came low and certain. "No, that's a commander." The Titan hovered over Iceland's fractured sky, and when it spoke, its voice rolled across the atmosphere like a verdict already past the bioforger Threxian Mall. He deploys Adaptation Trial 7. The air thickened instantly. Gravity multiplied in crushing waves. Zorak's boots cracked against the stone as he dropped to one knee under the sudden pressure. The Titan extended its arm with deliberate precision, and from its palm unfolded hundreds of microfilament projectors, thin, shimmering strands of living machinery. They scanned, they mirrored, they copied. Mira's console erupted with cascading data streams. She gasped as the readings stabilized into something impossible. It's replicating your Astryxium frequency in real time. Then the Titan's chest core ignited. White gold light flared outward, brilliant, radiant, like Zorak's. The Battle of Mirror Flame. Zorak launched first. He tore into the sky above the volcanic plain, and they collided mid-air with a force that flattened hardened lava fields in expanding rings of shockwave. Molten fissures split open beneath them as the Titan met his charge without yielding. It adapted instantly. Every energy beam Zorak fired was matched with identical intensity. Every gravitational inversion he unleashed was countered before it fully formed. The sky cracked with mirrored light, blue against white gold, two identical frequencies colliding in violent symmetry. Below, Lumo clutched his head as psychic interference surged through the battlefield. The Titan wasn't merely copying power, it was learning emotional resonance. It mirrored Zorak's aggression, his hesitation, even his instinct to shield the ground below from collateral damage. Dr. Ray's voice broke through the comms, urgent and sharp. It's not matching your strength, it's matching your neural impulse speed. Zorak's eyes flared, and then he stopped attacking, midair. The Titan recalculated in real time. Its chest core pulsed as it searched for the next predicted strike, but the expected action never came. That fraction of hesitation broke its rhythm. Mira understood immediately. It predicts reaction, she said, so don't react. Zorak closed his eyes. He let the Astryxium within him slow, not spike, not flare. He steadied it into balance. The radiant surge settled into something quieter, deeper. The Titan charged. But Zorak moved without aggression, without anger, without memory, pure presence. He slipped inside the Titan's mirrored frequency field, stepping through its predictive matrix like light through fractured glass. In one fluid motion, he placed his hand over its blazing core. You can copy power, he said softly, but not choice. He inverted his Astryxium polarity. The white gold blaze shifted into silent starlight, a harmonic frequency never recorded, never broadcast, never predictable. The Titan's replication matrix destabilized instantly. Cracks spidered across its obsidian armor as bioforger algorithms collapsed under unanticipated variance. Its cobalt veins flickered erratically, and then it detonated in a contained implosion of blue-white light. Silence returned. Steam rose from shattered volcanic rock as embers drifted into the night. Aftermath. Mira approached cautiously, scanning residual energy fields. You didn't overpower it, she observed. Zorak's voice was steady. No. He looked at his hands, the fading starlight dissolving into calm blue veins. I outgrew it. Lumo stepped forward, his eyes shimmering once more. A vision flickered briefly across his consciousness, distant and cold. An observatory vessel drifting in deep space. Within it stood a tall biomechanical figure watching the battle's conclusion in silence. Bioforger Xytheron Mal, data streaming, adjusting, learning. Zorak lifted his gaze toward the stars. They're done testing pieces, he said quietly. They're assembling the whole equation. Dr. Ray exhaled, tension threading his voice. Then what do we do? Zorak's expression hardened. We stop Phase 3 before it reaches the sun. Mira met his eyes, resolve sharpening her posture. Then G4 goes global. Beside them, luminous symbols formed in the air, Lumo's telepathic script taking shape once more. We fight in the stars. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, 7 construction spires ignited in perfect alignment. A faint gravitational hum rippled through the solar system. In the darkness of Zytheron command space, a voice echoed calmly. Begin stellar harvest calibration. The war was no longer planetary, it was solar, and the next battle would decide whether Earth kept its sky. Episode 18, The Second Duel, Shockwaves. The sky above São Paulo fractured without warning. No portal, no warning flare, No fleet shadowing the stars, just gravity collapsing inward like an invisible fist squeezing the atmosphere. Zorak felt it before the shockwave struck. Buildings groaned, windows atomized, air itself compressed into a concussive wall that rippled across the skyline. Cars lifted from highways as if the planet had forgotten which way was down. And then he descended, Valtrex again. But not the executioner Zorak had faced before. This version radiated something colder, shriller. His obsidian armor had transformed, layered now with Astryxium reactive filaments that shimmered in blue-white pulses. Veins of adaptive circuitry rippled across his chest like living starlight. His gauntlets hummed with gravitational density far beyond their previous output. "You survived calibration," Valtrex said calmly as he hovered above the collapsing city. "Now we test acquisition." Zorak rose from the street below, Astryxium core blazing. The first collision detonated across the continent. They struck mid-air and the shockwave flattened 4 city blocks in expanding rings of pulverized steel and concrete. The impact registered on seismographs across South America. Storm systems shifted. Ocean tides quivered, adapted instantly. Zorak drove a concentrated beam of Astryxium energy into his chest plate, the same strike that had staggered him before. This time the armor absorbed it, refracted it, and returned it as a focused counterblast that hurled Zorak through a skyscraper. Glass and steel rained into the streets below. Gravity folded again. Across the Atlantic, coastlines experienced sudden tidal distortions. In North America, compasses spun erratically. Satellites dropped from orbit as micro-singularities flickered into existence above the battlefield. Zorak lunged back into the air, driving a kinetic punch into his helm. The crack of impact echoed like artillery fire. But the new armor recalibrated mid-strike, redistributing force across its adaptive lattice. Valtrex seized him by the throat. "Your core output variance has increased by 11.4% since Jupiter," observed clinically. "Optimal harvest window approaching." Zorak roared and unleashed a radial Astryxium surge that tore free and sent him crashing into the upper atmosphere. They collided again above the clouds, and this time the shockwave rippled across hemispheres, extended both arms. Space folded into a lattice of burning lines, a stellar containment field. It formed instantly around Zorak like a cage made of compressed sunlight. Each filament pulsed in harmonic resonance with his core frequency. The more he struggled, the tighter it constricted. Pain flared through his chest. Below, entire city districts lost power as gravitational stress fractured underground grids. Continents felt momentary weight shifts that knocked millions off balance. Zorak drove his fist into the field. It absorbed the strike. He tried again, harder, and something inside him cracked. A sharp fracture splintered across his Astryxium core, tightened the containment lattice. "You misunderstand the objective," he said evenly. "Earth is not priority." Zorak's breathing grew ragged as gravitational pressure mounted. "Our star decays. Its fusion instability accelerates. Planetary cores are inefficient." The containment grid flared brighter. "But your Astryxium core," continued, "is not." Zorak froze. "You are a living stellar catalyst. With proper extraction, you can reignite Zytheron Prime directly. Earth was bait." The words hit harder than the gravity. "You never intended to drain Earth immediately," Zorak said through clenched teeth. "Earth is secondary," confirmed. "You are the true prize." The containment field contracted. The cracks in Zorak's core deepened, glowing dangerously unstable. He felt the Astryxium inside him reacting, not just defensively, but violently. If it ruptured here, the explosion would vaporize half the hemisphere. He stopped resisting, just as he had against the adaptive Titan. He slowed his output, let the panic subside, let the pain settle. Balance, recalculated for struggle. Zorak detonated upward in a controlled Astryxium burst, shattering 3 lattice nodes simultaneously. The containment cage fractured, destabilizing into fragments of burning starlight. He slammed into with everything he had left, driving him through the upper atmosphere and into orbit. The impact scorched a visible line across the sky, but Zorak's core flickered violently. He was losing stability. Recovered first. "Escape recorded," he said calmly, already adjusting his armor's calibration. "Next encounter will eliminate variance." He withdrew in a controlled gravitational fold, vanishing into black space. Zorak hovered alone above Earth again, breathing hard. The cracks in his Astryxium core pulsed faintly before stabilizing, barely. He looked down at the planet below. For the first time, he understood the truth. This war was no longer about defending Earth. It was about preventing himself from becoming the weapon that would save Zytheron Prime. And next time, they would not try to fight him. They would come to take him. Episode 19, The Star Engine. High Dominarch Zaltheris did not believe in hesitation. Across the abyss between galaxies from the Obsidian command throne of Zytheron Prime, he raised a single-clawed hand and initiated the final stage of the Synod's design. Above Earth, space began to fracture. At first, astronomers thought it was a sensor malfunction, anomalous radiation spikes, gravitational distortions folding in on themselves. Then satellites blinked out one by one. Something immense was assembling in orbit, piece by impossible piece, like a cathedral forged from starlight and extinction. The stellar conduit. It began as a lattice of black metal rings rotating at impossible speeds. Then came the energy bridges, arcs of compressed plasma linking each ring into a colossal circular array spanning thousands of kilometers. At its center, a growing sphere of white gold fire churned like a captive sun. On Earth, oceans trembled, tides withdrew unnaturally along entire coastlines, magnetic storms ignited auroras over the equator. Deep beneath the crust, seismic plates groaned as gravitational pressure increased by fractional degrees, small but rising. In the Icelandic vault, Mira's hands flew across holographic projections of Earth's core. The molten outer layer was destabilizing. "It's not just a weapon," she said, voice tight. "It's a siphon." Dr. Ray stared at the energy model linking Earth to a distant red star flickering on the galactic map, Zytheron Prime's dying sun. "They're creating a bridge, a direct stellar transfer." The numbers stabilized into a horrifying clarity. If activated, Earth's core would collapse inward. Zorak's Astryxium signature would be locked and drained. Zytheron's sun would reignite. Earth would die so another star could live. High above the planet, Zorak hovered alone, staring at the growing megastructure. The stellar conduit hummed like a living thing. He could feel it, its harmonic frequency resonating with his own Astryxium core. It was tuned to him. He closed his eyes briefly and reached inward. The conduit wasn't just drawing planetary energy, it was calibrated to his power signature. The Synod hadn't been testing Earth. They had been studying him. A pulse rippled outward from the conduit. Every electrical grid on Earth flickered. In space, debris fields and satellites were pulled subtly toward the massive structure, caught in its gravitational draft. A voice thundered across every broadcast channel, translated instantly into every human language. "Earth is not the objective," High Dominarch Zaltheris declared. "It is collateral." The projection of the Dominarch's towering form appeared within the conduit's blazing center, armored in living obsidian, eyes burning like twin supernovas. "Your Astryxium core will serve a higher equation, Zorak. Through your extinction, a civilization survives." Zorak's fists tightened. He surged forward. Blue-white lightning exploded around him as he accelerated toward the conduit's outer ring. He struck the first rotating band with the force of a meteor. The impact detonated in a halo of shockwaves, shattering segments of the lattice into molten fragments, but the structure reassembled. Adaptive nanofilaments crawled across the damage, reforming the ring within seconds. The conduit pulsed brighter, absorbing his energy signature like data. It's learning, Mira whispered over comms. Zorak tore through a second ring, carving it apart with his energy blade. This time he inverted polarity mid-strike, sending a chaotic feedback surge into the structure. The conduit staggered, then stabilized. At its core, the white gold sphere intensified. A beam lanced downward toward Earth, not yet touching but aligning. If it connected fully, the siphon would begin. Zorak stopped mid-space. He understood now. The conduit was designed to resist external attack. It adapted to force. It recalibrated against opposition. The only overload capable of destabilizing it would have to come from inside the harmonic network. From him. He descended briefly toward Earth's upper atmosphere, hovering where the sky curved into darkness. Below, cities flickered with fear. Billions of lives hung in the balance. Mira's voice reached him, strained but steady. Zorak, the conduit is synchronizing to your Astryxium waveform. If it completes the lock, it'll draw directly from you. I know, he said quietly. Dr. Ray's breathing caught. If you overload your core to disrupt it, it could kill me, Zorak finished. Silence followed. He looked at Earth, the oceans, the continents, the thin, fragile atmosphere glowing against the void. A world that had not been his by birth, but had become his by choice. The conduit's central beam began to descend. Time was gone. Zorak closed his eyes and drew deeper than he ever had before, past aggression, past survival instinct, into the center of Astryxium itself. He felt the core respond, brightening, heating, pushing toward instability. Warning fractures of white light spidered across his chest emblem. The energy surged violently, threatening to tear him apart from within. He gritted his teeth and redirected the buildup outward, allowing it to saturate his entire form. Lightning erupted in all directions. He shot upward like a comet, plunging directly into the heart of the stellar conduit. Inside, gravity twisted, radiation screamed. The conduit attempted to lock onto him, to drain him, to convert him into fuel. Instead, he inverted everything. He forced Astryxium into catastrophic resonance, an overload pulse designed not to destroy but to destabilize harmonic equilibrium. The conduit screamed, rings fractured, energy bridges snapped like burning wires. The central sphere flickered violently between white gold and void black. Far away on Zytheron Prime, the Dominarch rose from his throne as the connection destabilized. Impossible, he hissed. Within the conduit's core, Zorak felt his strength evaporating, his armor cracked. The Astryxium core burned brighter than ever before, then brighter still. The overload detonated outward in a silent shockwave. Above Earth, the stellar conduit imploded in a collapsing spiral of starlight, its fragments scattering harmlessly into space. The descending beam vanished. Earth's magnetic field steadied. The tremors ceased. The skies cleared. In orbit, where the megastructure had been, only drifting debris and fading radiation remained. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then a single blue-white ember fell from the wreckage, descending slowly toward Earth's atmosphere. Inside the Icelandic vault, Mira stared at the monitors, searching desperately for one signal. There, faint, unstable, but alive. Zorak was falling. Episode 20. The Ultimate Guardian. The sky did not simply darken, it fractured. Without warning, 5 colossal distortions tore open in Earth's orbit, each one radiating a different harmonic frequency of alien intellect. For the first time in their long-calculated campaign, the Synod Overminds did not remain distant observers. They projected themselves physically into the battlefield. Gigantic silhouettes formed against the stars, vast biomechanical entities of impossible design, their presence bending gravity and igniting auroras across the planet below. Oceans swelled, satellites spiraled from stable paths. The world watched in stunned silence as gods of engineered evolution stood revealed. At their center hovered war architect Kryn Vorak, Unlike the others, Kryn was built for conquest. His frame was angular and bladed, layered in adaptive obsidian armor etched with shifting star maps. His chest core burned a ruthless emerald white, and gravitational rings rotated behind his back like a crown of war. "You have exceeded projected resistance thresholds," Kryn's voice thundered across orbit. "Correction is required." Zorak rose to meet him. Below, humanity gathered on rooftops, in streets, on coastlines, watching the heavens ignite. Cameras streamed the impossible battle live. Fear mingled with hope. The first strike split the sky. Kryn moved faster than any entity Zorak had faced before. Gravitational lances carved through space, forcing Zorak backward through a debris field of shattered satellites. Zorak countered with an Astryxium surge, blue lightning exploding outward in defiance. They collided above the curve of Earth, and shockwaves rippled through the upper atmosphere like thunder without sound. Kryn adapted with terrifying precision. Every beam Zorak unleashed was countered. Every inversion met with calculated resistance. The war architect had studied him across every previous encounter. "You are finite," Kryn declared. Zorak felt it too. His Astryxium reserves were unstable after the stellar conduit overload. Pushing further could destroy him. He pushed anyway. Energy flooded through his armor beyond safe thresholds. Warning fractures spidered across his chest plate. Blue light intensified to blinding silver. His gauntlets cracked. His helmet split along luminous seams. Pain lanced through him, but beneath it something else awakened. Astryxium was not merely power, it was evolution. Kryn launched a final gravitational compression field designed to crush Zorak at a molecular level. Zorak did not resist, he transcended. The silver-blue glow of his core flared, then shifted. Radiant white gold erupted outward in a silent detonation of controlled infinity. His armor reformed in streams of living light, fractures sealing into luminous filaments. His presence expanded, no longer just reactive, but sovereign. He moved once. White gold energy cleaved through Kryn's gravitational lattice, shattering the compression field. With a single concentrated surge, Zorak drove a pulse of evolved Astryxium directly into the war architect's core. Kryn staggered. For the first time, an Overmind recoiled. "You have advanced," Kryn acknowledged. The projection around him destabilized. Rather than fall, he withdrew in controlled precision, dissolving into streaks of emerald light alongside the other 4 Overminds. Far across the void, in the throne chamber of Zytheron Prime, High Dominarch Zaltheris observed the data feed in silence. "Redirect exploration fleets," the Dominarch ordered calmly. "Seek less fortified systems, preserve resources." Earth would be spared, for now. In orbit, Zorak hovered alone, white gold radiance illuminating the planet below. He was no longer merely guardian of Aetheron. He had become something greater, guardian of worlds. But in the far reaches of the galaxy, the Synod had not surrendered. They were simply searching for easier prey, and they would remember him. We hope you enjoyed our super story on Zorak Nebulae so far, to be continued.